All right, so we are going to look at, I'm trying to take you to a piece of new tech, okay? We did Docker a little bit, right? And as I said, we are going to visit those topics over and over again as we need more from it to solve a problem. Because if you do not tie a solution to a problem, it's very hard to remember the solution, okay? That's the reason why I'm not going deep into a tech and then moving next to the next and then going deep into a tech. Rather, what I'm doing is I'm going from left to right, looking at the whole spectrum. And when we move next, if there's anything more we need to learn about this, we will learn it over here. Okay, so that way we connect the dots and complete the whole rainbow. All right. So we saw Docker. And as you must have started reading, I saw all the energy that everybody was showing. There's so much more that has been added to Docker, right? There are so many new features that has come to Docker. And you are in the right direction in going and finding out what are the new features, what else we can do, so on and so forth. So I would encourage you to continue doing that. If you find some jewels, please come back, like the way Rumana is going to show us in a few minutes. Please do come back and show that, hey, you know what, we didn't talk about it, Samir, this is a problem. And this is how you can solve the problem. Okay, this is the solution to it. Today, what I'm trying to get to is, we have created a EC2 instance in AWS, correct? We did. And that's AWS. That's AWS, right? And how did we provision this EC2 instance?
Terraform script.
Using Terraform. And there was a need for us to install Java, Maven, Git. For that, the first attempt that we did was we used the user data section of EC2 in Terraform script, and we provisioned that. You remember that, correct? So I'm talking about, what is this? Docker Java, I don't need it. This is what I need. Yeah. Okay. So in your main, I thought I had commented out all of this. Okay, yes, I did comment out all of this over here. See that? So this is what we were doing to install, you know, Docker, Git, Maven with Java, so on and so forth. But then I told you that we don't need it. We don't have to do it. We can actually create a golden image. And I have sent you that document. I hope everybody got the document of how to create a golden image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go through it?
I didn't get a chance, Samir.
Okay, I would highly recommend that you go through it. Let me see if I can pull that document somewhere here. Here, this one, right? So I'm going to pull this document and I'm going to put this document over here. Over here, so that you have something very quick to refer if needed. Okay, so that has details of how to create a AMI and how to make that AMI public, or if you do not want to make it public but keep it private but share it with different AWS accounts, those details are in there. So let me go ahead and add this real quick. And I would want you really to play with your Git, okay? Because it's all in practice, right? As many times you type it out with your own fingers is when you're going to remember this command very well. Even though I can go here, if you really see, I can go here and do everything like adding, pushing, committing, everything I can do from here. but I normally don't do it in front of you because I want you to practice your commands. Once you know your commands well, then using GUI is pretty easy. So git commit minus array docs folder.
I mean, not that I want to deviate the topic. I just didn't check it out myself. But at any point in time, if I have only one branch, which is main branch, and there are several commits, and I want to check out from a particular commit, what's the command for that? If it's going to take too long,
that is not going to take too long. You just, the command is git log. And git log, if you do a git log help, it will give you a lot more thing. Like you can git log and find out all the commits done by Samir. If there are many authors, right, you can find out by which author. So if you want to take this as another assignment, please do take it. Again, not a mandatory assignment, but if just go find out what are the things that you can do with git log. But I just do this. And if I want to go to any commit, okay, I will just copy that commit queue to come out of here and then do a git checkout. Exact same thing you do with a branch. The only thing is this will be a headless branch. That means you cannot commit anything over here. Now you'll ask me if I want to commit something over here in this particular one, what do I do? The answer is just create a brand new branch from here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you'll do a git checkout minus B. My new branch. Then you'll be able to commit to this branch and push it out. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That's the beauty of Git. Anyway, let's go back now. I've added that document. And we saw how to create this. We haven't spent a lot of time looking at Terraform, correct? I did talk about providers. I did talk about some of those concepts, like we saw Git init, Terraform init, we saw Terraform plan, we saw Terraform apply, so on and so forth. But we haven't got to the depth of it yet, right? We will go to the depth of it. That's my promise. But not now. The time is not come yet. What you need to know is we created EC2 instance. The document tells you how to create an AMI out of it, how to make that AMI public. And in Terraform script over here, we are using that new AMI ID, the AMI ID of my golden image, not the original one. This was the original one. Okay. Let's move back. Today's topic, the whole reason I'm giving you this background is, today's topic is, I want to create two EC2 instances. Okay, one more thing, when I'm coming here, I am really hoping that you are destroying this EC2 instance every time your work is completed. Otherwise, you'll be charged money. May not be hundreds of dollars, but it could reach about 30, 40, 50, whatever those dollars are for creating this EC2 instance and keeping it running forever. So I'm really hoping that you destroy it as soon as your work is all done. Okay, especially when we get to multi machines, right? That message becomes a little more serious, because otherwise you'll come to me and tell me that I've got a charge of $100, Samir, because I didn't destroy the EC2 instances. That's why I'm repeating this.
So how are we going to save the work that we have done in EC2 instance?
Simple, right? Last time I showed you. You can either do it through Putty, you can do it through WinSCP. Just whatever work you've done, that whole folder, bring it down onto your local host machine. Yeah, and that's another place where we will talk about a new tech stack. Let's not get there yet. I'm getting to it, but before that, I'm trying to give you a vision. Okay. Did I answer your question, Romana? How you're going to save your work?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I have not been destroying something. I don't know. I have to check the card.
No, you have to destroy. Just Terraform space destroy, like how you do Terraform space apply, Terraform space destroy.
Yeah, I have done that a couple of times, but when I have something in order to preserve my work.
Yeah, I mean, see, it will not cost you a lot to have just one EC2 T2 micro instance, right? It will not cost you a lot. But at the same time, if you have the option to download your work, do a remote sync from EC2 to your local machine, this is another assignment for you, a third assignment, Romana.
Okay.
Just find out how many tools are there to do a remote sync using SSH. Okay. And you can set it up automatically, basically. As soon as your work is done in a couple of minutes. It will sync up everything from EC2 to local. I'm not telling you any tools, but find out as an assignment and then come back to me and tell me, Samir, it's possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let's move forward. So we will create 2 EC2 instances. And what I want to do is I want to be able to get into one EC2 instance and then move to this EC2 instance from here. From here, I want to be able to SSH into this EC2 instance. That's what we want to do today. Okay, I've not done it in AWS, to be very frank with you. I don't work with AWS a lot. I mean, I have done this on native VMs, which are created using VMware. Should be very simple. The only thing that we'll have to look at is the security group to make sure they're able to talk to each other. But we'll figure it out together, okay? The next thing is, let's blow this up a little bit more. Let's blow it up, okay? Instead of 2, let's say we have 3 and 4 and it goes on, hundreds. Terraform can go ahead and create all of this infrastructure, okay? But now after Terraform has completed it, you don't know day one, right? What all you really need to install. Whatever you need, basic installation, you will do it either through Terraform or you'll do it through your golden EMI. But eventually, if you want to do some kind of upgrade, let's say your Java, you need to upgrade, or you need to upgrade any other software which is running on all of this machine. How do you really do that? Yeah, you can definitely do this, right? You can set up a SSH tunnel between these two, considering this EC2 is called master, let's say. Okay, that's your master, and these are all workers. And you're going to connect to this guy and then SSH into each and every one, and then go and run upgrade command. But are you understanding the kind of pain that you're going to get through to go to the hundreds of or thousands of EC2 instances to just run that one single upgrade command? Are you understanding the problem? Yeah. Now this is the problem, right? I mean, we always go by problem and solution. What is the solution to it? The solution is automation. Any problem that comes to you, right? I mean, the solution is automation, basically. But in automation, what? How do we really do it? So this is where the world of configuration management comes into picture. Okay. So if you go search for DevOps plus configuration management, you might come across several tools: Ansible, Puppet, Chef, and the list will go on. Yes. Any questions? No? Okay. Are you guys following me, or am I just talking to myself?
Yes. Following, Samir.
So now, first of all, understand the problem, right? And now comes the configuration management. What does configuration management really do? Configuration management allows you to automate this stuff that I was talking about. And not just about upgrading your software, but much more. Okay, you have a software and you want to configure that software. For example, you want to go and install Splunk heavy forwarders on all of these 100 machines, and then go and configure those forwarders. You don't have to log into all of this machine. You can do all of that using configuration management. There is Puppet and Chef. I have personally not used Puppet and Chef extensively. And the right answer to that is because I have not been ops for a very long time, right? I came from development team coding in Java, and then eventually got into ops. So that's how I'm getting into the world of DevOps, right? There are people who will be coming from ops who would be knowing a lot more about Puppet and Chef. But what I can tell you with Puppet and Chef is Puppet and Chef was expecting you to install software over here and go and install agents on each and every workers. That's how they will be able to talk to each other. Okay. Out of this, Ansible is my interest. And that is what is shining at the moment. Okay. So what Ansible allows you to do is you don't need to install anything on the workers. you don't need to install anything on the workers. The only thing that you need to install here is Ansible, and Ansible talks over SSH to all of those. Since SSH is the default port 2022, you don't have to do anything more to install for Ansible to talk to this servers. You'll ask me, how will Ansible even know this servers? There is this file in Ansible called inventory file. Okay, so before going there, let me cancel this guy from here and use the right term. The machine that actually controls everybody else, they call it as controllers. Okay, and controller has an inventory file. The inventory file has details of all of these machines with their names or IP addresses, and several more details, right? If you log in using your password, there'll be user ID password in there. If you log in with, they recommend to log in with SSH key. They don't recommend to use user ID password on these machines. And that's the reason why you will have to set up this SSH link with the controller at least once, and then have your inventory file, and the inventory file will talk to all of these machines. There's a lot more it does, and that's what we will cover when we get into Ansible. It allows you to group instances together so that you can tell in one single command, I want to apply this to only this group of servers. Okay, or I want to apply it to all of them, so on and so forth. So what I want to, I'm not going to deep dive into Ansible today, okay, but we're going to look at how to set up SSH to start with. But what I want you to take today is that idea that, oh, there is a problem and there is a way for us to solve that problem, that is Ansible. So if we wanted to install Git and Maven and Java and all of that on all of this machine, all of them, right? We could just come onto a controller and let Ansible take care of all of that installations. Is the statement clear? I'm trying to oversimplify the whole thing. Is the statement clear?
Yes.
Perfect. Let's move on. Okay. First of all, we want to create the second EC2 instance, right? This one. Let's see how we can do it with Terraform real quick. I am going to minimize this. If you look at this main.tf file, what do we have? We have a provider specified over here, which is AWS. We have the resource AWS key pair, okay, which says, so I've told you there are only two things in Terraform that are very, very important apart from provider. That's a separate world altogether. But otherwise, if you go to Terraform documentation for any provider, basically, right? Let's go there and see what I'm talking about. So if you go to AWS Terraform provider, anything that you open up over here, right? That, for example, EC2 instance, we'll go to down EC2. You'll see there are two parts there. Everyone, okay, not only AWS, any provider you go to, you'll see two parts: resources and data sources. And I've talked about it briefly last time, and I don't want to go to the depth of Terraform right now, but resources allows you to do a CRUD operation, C-R-U-D, create, read, update, delete resources. Data source allows you to just do read. What does that mean is, if you have an existing resource, you want to read something from that resource and then inject that data that you've read into the new resource that you're going to create, then that's where your data source. This is like, if you have some data in your, for example, if you have a config data in your database, you read the config data to populate your Java objects, correct? Similar to that. So data source is only for reading, and resources is for doing create, read, update, delete. Make sense? Let's move back. So we are creating a resource called AWS key pair. The public key is located in a default path. Okay, that's where it is. And then we are creating this AWS instance. If you see here, right? This is the instance that we're creating. So what we will do is we will copy this. We'll copy this block. Do you want me to do it in a brand new repository instead of polluting this so that you get to see in the original state?
Yes, Samir.
Yeah, let's do that. let's call it as, let's give it some name instead of session. I don't know. So Terraform.
Count function.
What's that?
Count function.
I can't. Count, you said?
Count.
Because
we are going to create multiple instances.
Yeah. So I'm not showing you the meta argument yet. Count is a meta argument. I'm not showing you that. So I will call it as Terraform multi-resources. Okay. So that's what I'll call it. And I will close this, right? I will open up a new one. Come on. And I'm going to remove the .git folder from here so that I don't commit it by mistake. I'll remove the .terraform also. I don't need to remove it, but I'll remove it. I'll keep the docs in there. That's fine. Git, it's not Git. So you don't see any more that Git thing. And we have it here. Good. What we'll go through is in the main, we want to, let's clean this up a little bit. So I'll clean this up. We don't need EBS block. I will leave it here. This might, you might need someday. User data, I'm going to remove. We don't need it from here. We don't need this. Provisionals, we don't need. So I'll just clean it up to keep it simple. Okay. This is we have. So in a normal world, what I will do is I will copy this and paste it here. Okay. I'll call it as instance 1. Call it as instance 2. Okay. Exact same. No difference at whatsoever. And maybe I'll clear this also when we need it. We'll put it just to keep it as simple as possible. So my EC2 instance 1. Let's do this. My EC2 instance 2. Clear so far?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'll come to what Jyoti is going to talk about, but if I show you that, right, you'll not understand the problem. So I want to describe that problem before I come to count meta argument. Now, if I do git init, let me go ahead and create a repository. Multi-resource is fine. I'll make it public and create repository. I've already done init. This guy. Paste. Rename the branch main. Change to main. And then add the remote. Then push it. That's it. Okay, that's the repository for you. So we have it here. Let's go ahead and see we can do a git, Terraform. So it is failing, and somebody has to tell me why it is failing.
Terraform, we need to execute first command.
Yep. What does a Terraform init really do? Can you tell me?
Initializes all the plugins in the directory which we are working.
Initializes the providers and the modules, actually. Basically, what you mean by initializes it is actually downloads those. And I have shown you earlier what it really does is it will create a .terraform directory there. You see that? Just now it got created, and it will download all of the providers. So we have just AWS provider. So you'll see AWS provider over here. Okay. Good. I just want to quickly go here and see if I have my Terraform TF warrior. I guess there. And again, remember, Terraform plan doesn't have to be run every single time before you apply. Okay, you can technically go and apply directly. But Terraform plan is just to give you a confidence that, oh, you know what, everything looks great. Because when you do a Terraform apply, so okay, it is giving an error on line number 2. Okay, I know why, because we have changed the name now, right? In the output this over here, we have given web. Instead of that, we have to use the name that we have given over here. So we want to output instance 1 and instance 2, both IP, public IPs. So you can copy this public IP instance 1, and then we'll put another output. Name can be anything, but this name has to match the actual resource name. Okay. So that is good. Terraform apply. And if you want to read through, you can read through. There's a key pair it is creating. So if you look here, it will tell you it's creating 3 resources. And it's right because it's creating a key pair and 2 EC2 instances. So I'll say yes, but before I say yes, I want to open up my AWS. Where are you?
Does it throw error if the key pair already exists with the same name?
It will give error. Yes. That's why I want to log in. Well, I mean, I would not have it because I always destroy, right? Yeah. So for me, I would not have anything there if you really look at it. For me, it will just work. Which one? This is the golden AMI. I don't care about this. I care about this guy here. So there's nothing here. There's no key pair that I would have. At least not the one that I was expecting. You see, it's not there. So technically, I should be good to go ahead and say yes. Oop. There should be a key here by now. I think it is there. And then if I go to instance, it should be creating 2 instances and initializing it. It's completed. So I have the public IPs over here. I can take up one. Okay, so this is working. So exit from here. Take the next one also. Good. All right, so both are working, but come out and I'm going to copy these commands just so that I can reuse them very easily and put it over here and this one. Here, okay. If I log in here, and if I want to SSH to this box from there, will it allow me? Doesn't allow, right? Yes. Romana, you said something?
Yeah, it looks like it's not allowing, right?
It will not allow, it should not allow. So what we will do is we will go to the where are you? You see this here that I've sent you? Just open that up to the end. And there should be a SSH ID. Where are you? Let's take this. So I'm creating. I'm able to hear my. Somebody has put me on a speakerphone. All right. Anyway, I'm not going to put any passphrase or whatever for now, just to keep it simple. I'll just keep entering. And if I go to CD, or let's say cat, pick up the public key from here. Public key is something that everybody can see. That's no problem. I will take this public key and I will open up a new here. And paste it to connect to the next EC2 instance. Okay, and then I'll go back to this documentation again. And it should be telling me so this one, right? Should give me the path. Okay, this is the same path. All right, so I've logged into this box now. I will try to see if there should not be any folder called .ssh here. There is. And there is the authorized keys over here. Cat. There's already a key which is created for my key pair, if you see here, right? It's already there, that is what allows me to connect to this box in the first place. So what I want to do is I want to take a backup of this guy. Okay. So how do we do a backup of this file? That command is here. Actually, you just do a copy, nothing else over here, right? So I will just copy this. It's a copy command. Okay, nothing great here. You're copying this file and saying make a backup copy. So if I do ls-lrt, there'll be 2 files over there. So before I make any change, there's a backup copy. So what I want to do is I want to copy my SSH key and put it over here. So what I'm going to do is nano authorized keys and go to the end of it, come down and bring my public key from here. paste it over here. Yeah. Control X, yes. Come out if you want to see it. There are two now, right? Now what I want to do is I want to go back. Well, I mean, yeah, we haven't changed the file permission, so we are good. File permission on this is, yeah, 600. Then I'll go back to the other machine over here and bring back that same command. And I'm going to make this as hide. So it will not allow me to get over here still. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to go to the instance. And which instance are we talking about? Instance 2. Okay. I'm going to look at instance 2's security. It has a security group. Okay. And it is not allowing, it is allowing 2022 only on my IP address at the moment. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change to it. So go here, come down, edit rule, and add rule SSH to the security group, to the same one basically. Whatever the security group is, I1C, whatever. So SG1C default, that's the one, 15A, 1CE, 1C. Okay, so I will put that and save it and then go back. Let's see. Well, doesn't work.
I didn't quite get that step, previous step.
Yeah, the previous step is we are saying anybody who is using this security group should be able to access. So I need some help now. Somebody help me.
I think we need to execute the, you are using SSH and public IP. SSH hyphen I EC2 user @ public IP.
Oh, yes. EC2 user at
Hyphen
-I would not be required, right? Because, oh yeah, -I would be required because we are using, oh well, it's a default key, right, for ID RSA here. So I'm thinking this should work. Still not working. Okay, let's try. I was thinking it's the default key. This is what you're saying, right?
No, SSH hyphen I EC2 user @ public IP.
Sorry, what is
Yeah.
SSH-I? That's the one, right?
That's the
Yeah.
one we tried, Jyoti. That's the one Sabhi tried earlier, right? Just before executing this one. It didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Samir.
Are you not talking about this command here?
No, we can remove this home directory .ssh ID _ RSA.
Yeah, that's what I did. This one you're talking about?
He's saying no need to pass the
Hyphen
password.
I.
Yeah, just only the hyphen I, no need to pass the path.
Yeah.
Oh, really? How does it differ? So it is giving me error actually. See, not accessible, no such file or directory. So when I say -I have to actually give the path to the key. So what I'm saying is I don't need to give the path to the key because, or I can give the path to the key. I'm just trying to see if I'm in the right git bash. Give me a second. I just hope I shouldn't be here and I'm being in the wrong one. No, I don't think so. This is the one that I modified. Yeah, that's not the one. All right, so what we need to do is we have to find out now what is the debug, how to enable debug log for SSH, okay? So this is a problem. Let's look at that.
So we need to execute that step -I and then pub key.
Not pub key, it should be a private key, right?
Sorry, ID RSA. Did you
Yeah.
try it that way?
Yes, I did it. I did that. I'm pretty sure it got to be with the security group, but we'll figure out. The thing is, I want to show you how to get to it. When we get into trouble, we try to figure out SSH verbose logs. So there's a -v command which will tell us what is happening. Okay, I'm thinking it's a permission denied thing, but let's figure out.
On the
I mean,
host
in the
that you
inbound rules, yeah, in the inbound rules, instead of giving the security group, can we give the IP?
yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, we should be able to do that. I want to see this error. So you're saying IP address of this guy, right?
I think the private IP. Okay?
We'll figure out. Let me at least get this error. I'm thinking it is basically trying to connect, but the port is not open for it. So it's this IP that it's trying, right? 1 second. Let's go back here to security groups and inbound rule. SSH I'll say for now, just for now, I will say anywhere, okay? Why are you doing this?
I have seen this happening when you try to edit. So I delete that one and create a new one.
It's a bug, right? Let's at least make sure that it is accessible, okay? That way we will know it is, it got to be security group issue. Yeah, see that? We're able to get in here. So IP config.
Question, Samir.
Yeah.
This is how you taught us when earlier, right? If you're trying to connect to a machine, you add an inbound rule, whether it is TCP or SSH, you add an inbound rule for that. So this time, why you were trying differently by allowing a security group? I didn't get that.
Yeah, so the way it normally works is when are we doing with database, let's say RDS, right? And there's a EC2 instance, and EC2 instance wants to talk to this guy. We normally, the reason we don't put the IP address of this EC2 instance is next time when you destroy it and recreate it, right? You will have to go and update your inbound rule to put the IP address of this machine. So instead of that, what we do is we tell the security group that this guy would be using here, use that same security. If there's a EC2 instance that comes with the same security group, allow this guy to access this machine. That's the whole idea, that you don't have to go and change your security group every single time you destroy your EC2 instance and bring it back again. Does that make sense? That's the theory behind it. It didn't work, but let's spend some time to, now that we know it has to do something with the security group, let's spend some time to see what could be done, okay? And for the sake of, I will just stop this recording for some time or pause the recording. So what we have right now is, we have EC2 instance 1, EC2 instance 2. Okay. We have two instances, all right? And what we had originally is we had one security group. In this security group, then there was me sitting over here with my public IP. A dot, B dot, C dot, D. Okay. In this security group, we had put an inbound rule to allow for A dot, B dot, C dot, D. This is the original one, right? And we assigned this security group to both this EC2 instance. So as a virtue of this, what was happening is I was able to connect over SSH to both of them. And you know why, right? Because the inbound rule says allow SSH for the public IP of Samir. Any questions on this one?
Yes.
Any questions on this one? Are you guys following me or not?
No.
You have to say yes.
Clear. Clear.
Okay. Let's move to the next one. What I tried to do next. What I did was, I said, we have this security group over here. I'm going to allow inbound rule to this security group itself, which is a terribly bad idea, right? Because now it is confused. What do you mean by this security group? That's what we were doing. I mean, we have this example over here, right? So if you go to the security groups, and if you look at the default security group, this was a bad idea. We were trying to say SSH allow for my public IP, allow for my public IP, and we were saying allow it. Well, this was not 000. This was like this, if you remember. SSH, it was security group, default security group. It was like this, correct? But now it is confused. What are you guys talking about? It's the same security group which has access to this guy, and you are saying this guy should allow this same security group when the message is coming from here to here. This is the one that we were trying to do, correct? SSH. We were still allowing it to come from here and come from here, that is this IP addresses. And then we were saying from here to here, use the same security group. And it is, in my mind, this should have been allowed. But it kind of makes sense from an implementation perspective that this will not be allowed. So what will be allowed is, let's clear things out from here. And have it this way. So what we do is we create a dedicated security group for this guy, a dedicated security group for this guy. So this is security SG1, and this is SG2. SG1 allows Samir with IP address A.B.C.D to access this. To access this instance. This is nothing different than the original one, right? It allows me to access this, and that's what we saw over here. It allows me to access it. Okay. Now we didn't want Samir to be able to access EC2 instance directly from his public IP. That's exactly what we tried to do over here. Mansa. I hope I have cleared that. See, let me clear that. The IP address. Security group. Where are you? So security group here. The security group 2, right? I'm going to go and update this to remove my IP address. I don't want to allow my IP address. I want to only allow security group 2 access. No, not 2.
1.
Security.
1
1.
access. Right. So what I'm saying is, coming back to this diagram, Samir should not have access to this directly from his IP address. We just updated it. So let's go back and see the thing that was working should not work anymore. This one should not work anymore. See that? So from my public IP, I do not have access. But what we want is from here to here, there should be access. So the rule that we are adding in this security group is we are saying anybody comes from security group 1, whoever has used security group 1 should be able to use security group, EC2 instance. So if you really take this, technically it is this security group sitting over here and allowing EC2 instance access to this long form, right? I've just put it over here. I've just bring it over here to make your understanding a little easy. So are you understanding what I'm getting to? Samir is not allowed access to this, but if Samir can get to EC2 instance 1, then he can get to EC2 instance 2. Okay, and now the critical piece that Jyoti solved was when I was sitting here, I was trying to SSH using the public IP, but we are already inside the AWS data centers. So when we are there, we want to use the private IP. That's what Jyoti helped with, right? So I'll go over here again. We saw that we cannot access this machine. So let's go to this guy here. I will exit. I will first connect to EC2 instance 1, which I should be able to connect. Connected, right? From here, I want to connect to EC2 instance 2. Okay. Over here, I'm trying to use the public IP, not the private IP. Okay. The expectation is, this is what Jyoti said, right? Public IP will not work because what we're talking about is within the AWS data center. So we have to use the private IP. So I will go back to the instance 2. I will take the private IP from here and I will go back here, cancel this. And instead of using the public IP, I will use the private IP.
It's me, Samir. It's Mansa.
Hello?
I told that.
Romana?
It's Mansa, Samir. Actually, I told that.
Oh, you said it, Mansa?
Yes.
Yeah, so Mansa said about private IP, which is perfect, right? So now, is this clear? I mean, I know we were having a little bit of a hiccup, but we figured out how to do it. Do we have the clarity now?
Yes, Samir.
Yes, Samir. My question is actually we assigned security group 1 to security group 2, right?
We are assigning security group 1 to security group 2.
Yeah. Then the security group 1 is internally allowing ABCD, public IP.
Right.
So then the security group 2 will not have the, will not allow the ABCD, the public IP.
It will not, and it is not, right? So do you want me to use the private IP maybe here? First of all, private IP will not even be accessible to me, right? Not allowed. Okay, and then I will use the public IP. Not allowed.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
Right, because what it is using is it is using the IP of the EC2 machine. So this concept is called a jump box or a bastion server concept.
Okay.
Okay, so you can in future, if you have RDS instances and you don't want to use expensive VPN clients, you can always create a small instance where people just use as a jump box. That means they will SSH into this. All of your database tooling, okay, allow you to do that. They allow you to connect to your database over SSH. So that means you'll first jump on this box and then connect to the private IPs, which are sitting over here. So technically, what this leads to us, the last message to you is the EC2 instance 2 technically doesn't even need to be in a subnetwork which assigns a public IP. So we don't need public IP anymore. The only thing that we need is a private IP. So the whole reason I had to fail this, I had to take you through the lesson, is to come to a picture which I'm going to draw now. Is when you look at AWS, there is public subnetworks and there is private subnetworks. Okay, what is public subnetwork? Public subnetwork is the one that has internet gateway attached to it. The default ones are by default, all of them are attached to the internet gateway. Okay, subnetworks that are attached to the internet gateway, any EC2 instance that falls into here could potentially have a public IP unless and until you opt out of it. So that means these guys you should be able to publicly access these machines. Okay, there will be EC2 instance that you will put into this subnets, right? They will only have private IPs. Now, if you want the external world to access this, they cannot access it. But you can follow the technique that I just showed you, make one of them as the jump box, and the security group that they are using, assign that security group as an inbound rule for this security group. Then people will be able to access this machine and then access everything else within it. Does this concept get it a little clear now?
It's very clear.
Clear.
So there was
Now it's clear.
There was the whole purpose of failing things and saying, oh, I don't know what happened. The whole purpose is fail, figure things out, and then map into your head what is really happening. What is security group? There's one more concept which I haven't really showed you, is there's a concept of ACL. We will get to it using a similar pattern in the future. What is ACL basically? The access control list. Okay, we'll come to it. But before we go there, what I want to do is right now the security groups that we've created. This two security groups right over here. They are not managed by Terraform. I want them to be managed by Terraform. Okay, and I have never done this before. And again, when I say I haven't done this before, there's always a lesson behind it, right? Either I have seriously not done it, or I want you to feel I've not done it, and then we'll try and figure it out together. So the message is, maybe I've not really done it, but I want to raise that inquisitiveness in you that, okay, Samir has not done it and we are trying to do it and we're trying to help him. I want that inquisitiveness in you. Okay, because that's the best way to learn. That somebody who's trying to teach you, he doesn't know it and he's trying to solve the problem for you over here on screen. Okay, by the way, the earlier problem that we faced, I really did not know about it because my impression was always there. I could use the security group recursively. They probably might support that feature in the future. You never know. Okay, theoretically in my mind that was possible. I didn't expect that I should separate out as two separate groups, because technically when I get here to EC2 instances, and if I go into security and change security group over here, right, I can assign more than one security groups over here. That's in my mind. If technically we can assign more than one security group, that is almost similar to what I was trying to do earlier. How is it different? Okay, and all of my learning is basically that mind mapping. If this is possible, what they would have been using in their code. Oh yeah, if it's allowed to group, maybe I can just have one security group and combine it together. That was the thing. But don't get confused with it. I'm just being honest that I really didn't know about it. But there was a reason for me to feel that would be supported. Right. Save it. Okay. Just want to make sure it all works. Exit. Yeah, it works. All right. Now coming to Terraform. How do I get this guy off?
Can you add security group as a resource Samir, in the main.tf?
Yep, that's where we will get to. Where are you? AWS Terraform provider. And again, you have to help me with this, okay? I don't know this. EC2 security group, where are you? You can actually type it here, okay? Here, this one, VPC. So let's pick this up. Let's go back to here. Let's go to this one here. And I'll do something funny here. I want to put this guy here. I don't want to put anything. I don't want to put even tags. I want to make sure that those are all optional, okay? So if you go down here, it'll tell you what is necessarily required. So if you see everything is optional, where is required? The following arguments are required. If you use ingress, these are required. But otherwise, technically, they are saying nothing is required. So I can basically remove all of it and just leave these guys. But I will keep this, allow SSH inbound traffic, and I will call it as security group 1, okay? Allow SSH VPC ID. Let's see, what is the VPC ID? I have to pick up my VPC ID because we are not creating VPC as part of this exercise. But when we grow up this, we will see we will be able to create VPCs also. But for now, what I will do is I will just use whatever is my VPC ID. Okay, so VPC. I should have just one, I believe. Yeah. So I will use this VPC ID. Okay. Right. So group 1 is ready. What I want to do now is the resource has already been created, right? I want that resource to now be managed by Terraform. I want you to understand this fine nitty-gritty about Terraform creating resource for the first time out of nowhere magically, and Terraform trying to manage which has already been created out of its context. Okay, so there is this command to import an existing resource, and it's always there towards the end. So I'm going to copy this command, basically Terraform import. I'm going to paste it here, and what it is saying is the resource group, AWS security group, paste it, dot the name. Paste it, and then I have to go to AWS where the resource is created and get the security group ID for the instance 1, for this guy. What is the security group ID? This one. Let's see if it works. I never tried it. Worked? Cool. Now let's do the same thing for second one. Security group 2. Allow SSH inbound traffic from security group. We will check how it looks like. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this guy or import this guy, and the security group is going to be this. Now what I will do is just go here. Terraform show. I want to show the states. Now, if you look here, this AWS security group, you got the whole thing, correct? You can copy this whole thing. And this security group 2. You can just put it here. So that next time when you destroy and recreate, you don't have to remember what were the security, the internal security IDs that you had to use. And the previous one is this. And there's some massaging that we'll have to do. We'll do it. Don't worry about that. One. I'm going to stop here for a second. So far, you're understanding what I'm trying to do, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So now what I'm going to do is,
yeah, one quick question, Samir.
Yeah.
Terraform import, is it importing the resources from our AWS account into the state file?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, right? Because that's the security group that I'm giving over here.
Okay.
Okay, let's look down now.
Terraform refresh also will do the same thing, right? Terraform refresh.
No.
Is it different? Okay.
It's completely different. It is completely different. So let's talk about it a little bit. You have a TF files. You have AWS account. AWS account is empty at the moment. There's nothing there. Okay, let's assume there's nothing there. It's blank. If you try to do Terraform refresh, it'll not bring you anything. It's zero. Nothing is there at the moment. Okay, it tells you there's no changes up over here. This side of the world is called desired state. I've told this briefly before, but I think it's a good time for us to talk about it. And this is current state. By the way, Mansa, was that you who asked the question?
Yes, Samir.
Did you go through Terraform training?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay, am I teaching it better? All right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fundamentals that you need to understand over here. So TF files is the desired state. Desired state is what? What is desire basically? Desire is what you wish should be done, correct? Your desires. You wish that you have a Ferrari. You wish that you have a BMW. And their current state is, I have a CRV, I don't have a BMW. Right? That's my current state. That's the difference. I'm just trying to relate it in the real world and tell you what the desired state and current state is. In Terraform, that's not true. Whatever is your desired state, you can get it to the current state. Okay. So BMW and CRV doesn't really apply over here. Now, I'm coming to a refresh question that you asked, but I have to take a little longer route so that you understand. Now, what happens is when you do a Terraform apply, all the resources that you had over here gets created over here. The same bubble, I mean, excuse me for the size of the bubble, but those are the resources that created over here, correct? When you do a refresh, and refresh is something that happens every single time you run a Terraform plan or Terraform apply. The refresh is the first thing that happens. What refresh really does is it brings in the current state, compares it to your desired state and tells you if there is a difference. Why? What if somebody had gone and made a manual change to not this bubble, to this bubble over here? They changed something in the resources that you have been managing with TF file. This is a very critical piece to remember. Terraform never cares about any other resource in AWS rather than what you've told it to manage. Is this statement clear? Because the next statement, what I'm going to say, is going to be related to this.
Yes.
Okay. So it can only manage the state that you've mentioned over here. Nothing more, nothing less. So if you go and make a change over here, that refresh will tell it that in my TF state file, this is the state that I was expecting, but I'm seeing there's some change over there. That means that change will have to be reverted. That is what is called a drift. Drift is change to the state that you manage. Okay. Now I'm coming to the real thing. What is import? Import is, yes, this bubble is there. This is everything, all the resources that you manage. And in our case, it was 2 EC2 instances and 1 key pair. But I went and created a security group manually, 2 security groups, which Terraform knows nothing about because Terraform doesn't manage it. What I wanted to do is, I wanted to increase this bubble to this. If I had to do this, if I had to bring these 2 instances known to Terraform to manage it going forward, I had to bring those each one and import them. Now, do you understand what's the difference between refresh and import?
Yes.
Okay, now after doing this, when I ran a Terraform show, it showed me what is there in its desired state file, the state file, not the desired state file, but the state file, right? Current state is the actual world. And there's also a current state for this. Where does that current state stay? The current state stays in the TF state file, this one. This is the one. So when I did a refresh, I mean, not a refresh, a show, it showed me everything that we are managing now, including the security group, with all the rules in there, the rules that we have created. Okay, I copied it from here and I put it up into my main file, so that the next time when we do a destroy and create Terraform apply, I would not have to go and manually create these rules. The rules should automatically get created. Is it clear so far? A very complex topic. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for you guys to understand. So don't tell me you don't understand.
Yes, Samir, it's clear.
Okay, so now there are a little bit of massages that we'll have to do, which I will probably do it outside this class, not now. Is I might have to do some bit of cleanup. For example, if you see here, it has ID. This ID doesn't have to. It can match what it has to be, but technically it doesn't have to be. But this ID over here, which I'm saying 69B, right, is this ID. So if I give it some ID, that is the ID that I'll have to use, and then you can either use it this way, or you can use it using the name. You can say AWS security group .security group 1 .id. So that is what you will come to know from this documentation. So if you see here, ID of the security group, ARN of the security group, owner ID, a map of tags assigned to the resource. So these are the additional attributes that we can get apart from all the others which are mentioned over here. Okay, so what it means is I should be able to sit and modify it a little bit, or technically use it out of the box as is. So let's try to use it as is. The CIDR block is my public IP. So this public IP also, I don't need to hard code technically. All of this will have to be created as variables, so that if you want to use this, you should be able to add your public IP in there and be able to use it. You don't have to come into main.tf and change it. So we will look at all of that. But before I do that, I want to see if I can destroy this. Terraform validate is to just make sure all of your code looks good. So there's a problem here actually. So let's see what the problem is. Value for unconfigurable attribute. It is saying the ARN. So ARN is probably not even required. Okay. So I will first go and comment this out. I'll go and comment this out. There will be many more. Okay. So I will do one at a time. So it is saying invalid unknown key. So SG line number 51. Let's see what is line number 51. 51 is this ID. It doesn't even need ID because ID is actually calculated. Okay, that's what I was trying to tell you earlier, right? So I will leave it here. I will comment it out so that you can see it. And same thing, I will do it for the next one. I will comment it out. Now, since I've commented this out, we don't really know what this ID is. But yes, we know it because we can get it from this guy. So come down here. Dollar, sorry, dollar. I don't even need those double quotes technically. I could directly use the name. So AWS security group. Dot security group 1 dot ID. You see, it is giving me help. All right, let's go rerun this and see what problems are there. It's only one problem now, line number 68, security group 1. Owner ID is not required. On line number 68. 68. Remove this. Remove this. Let's see what else we get into. Perfect. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's go ahead and do a Terraform destroy and see if the security groups get destroyed. See, we were not managing it earlier. Otherwise, it would not have got destroyed. This time, let's see if it gets destroyed or gives us some error.
Did you remove your IP from .tf file, Sunil?
From where?
From TF file? .tf, main.tf. Your
No, I
IP.
didn't. We have not variabilized it yet. We will get to it.
Okay. Okay.
It is fine for me to run it because that is my IP address, right? So it will still work for me. But when I send it to you, I will have to remove it and variabilize it so that you can add a variable of your IP address in there.
Right. Okay.
What I want to show you is now, since security group is being managed by us, it will go and delete it. Even though we had manually created it, it should delete it, right? So if you go back here, this guy, go here and go to security group, you'll only see a default security group. See that? So the resource that was created by us and we started managing it by using Terraform import is now being managed by Terraform. Let me just update the default one. Remove this guy, remove this guy, remove this guy, remove this guy. So I don't want anybody to play with my default security group. Okay. So far, following?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Now
sir.
let's go ahead. I mean, out of the box, this should just work for me, but I want to show you concept of variables. Okay. I also want to do this actually. I want to remove this double quotes around it and make sure that it still works. I'll tell you why we need those curly braces sometimes in some cases. Still works, right? There's no problem. You need those braces when you have a condition like you want to do something like this, let's say. So you want to get the actual ID, and then in the whole string, you want to have -1, -2, minus some name, minus, or you want to concatenate multiple things. That's the time when you have this way of doing things. Okay. Anyway, let's first of all externalize VPC. Okay, we'll externalize VPC. So to externalize VPC, what we need to do is we have to create a variable, right? So what I will do is I will comment this out. I will add a var dot VPC ID. I hope VPC ID we are not already using somewhere. No. Okay, the same thing, the exact same thing. I will do it down. Now, since we've said var.vpc ID, what I need to do is I have to go to variables and declare a variable called VPC ID. Okay, and the value, since we want to default a value, if you didn't want to default a value, you could declare it over here, okay? And we are trying to use it over here, but we have not given the value to it, okay? We have not given the value to it. What happens if we try to do something with this? To hide this guy. Save this guy. Now, if I try to run Terraform apply, it is going to ask me for its value. Because it doesn't know. It knows there's a variable declared. It knows that the variable is being used, but it tries to find a value and that value is not there. See this? If you don't want it to ask for this value, what you need to do, and I'm going to pause the recording for a second because I don't want to share my, so that the badge doesn't ask you for VPC ID to be entered. You can go in your own TF-var file and enter the VPC ID like this. Okay. Right. Now let's go ahead and apply this. This time it will not ask you to enter VPC ID because it already knows which VPC ID you want. Say yes, and it will go ahead and create the infrastructure for you. Are you catching up on Terraform? Chain by chain, little by little?
Yes.
Yes, Samir.
Yeah, there's a lot more. Okay, this is not the end of it. There's a lot more, but I'm just trying to change the technique of how you learn better. Okay, the assignment for you is go through this whole thing and see where all you, for example, the name of the security group 2, I want it to be variabilized. I want to be telling what it is. The description, I want it to be variabilized, let's say. So I want you to just play around with it, variabilize it, do whatever you want to do. Okay. And show me what you have once you complete it. There's one more thing called dynamic block. There's another thing called meta arguments where we don't need to create it 2 times. We can actually put count equals to 2, and then it will create both of them. Those are like some of the topics which we will see, but we will see at the right time. Okay, because every single learning that I want to do is I want to learn by looking at what the problem is and then see how to solve it. Okay, let's go ahead and see if this is created. This is created. It gave me the IP addresses. Perfect. Now, if I go in my AWS resource, it should have the security group. The only thing is the security group will not be attached to my EC2 instance. If you see my EC2 instance, right, it will still be using the default security group. There's no security group at all. Nothing assigned, right? We don't have any security groups assigned over here. So that means there's a problem, right?
That's because you deleted the default one, right, Samir?
I did not delete the default one. I just remove all the inbound rules. Yes. Yeah. Wait, there's a new one actually. I was looking at the wrong one. Maybe just give me a second. I did get created. Yeah, you see that default security group? This I don't want it to attach to default security group. I want it to be attached instance 1 to security group 1 and instance 2 to security group 2, correct? How do we do that? Any guesses?
In Terraform?
Yeah. Google, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Googling is one of the most important techniques, okay, that you can have. So if you can learn some of those things, the keywords that I'm using, so on and so forth, and learn how to do good Googling, probably you should be paying me only for learning how to Google. All right, I'm kidding. Let's see. The resource attaches a security group to an elastic directory. It can be security to any existing. How do I attach a security group to EC2 instance in Terraform? Let's see if this guy is helping anyway. Let's move down. He created the security group, created SSH key, created, okay, EC2 instance. There you go, this one. Okay, and you didn't have to really come here. Technically, we could have looked at the AWS here, and we could have gone through this a little bit, and we should have seen that that accepts a list of security groups. There's so many things here, right? Here, see that? EC2 instance classic default VPC only, a list of security group name to associate with. So we will do that now. We'll copy this guy. And I will go in here to AWS instance. And so we want it from this guy, correct? Dot security group 1 dot ID. I believe it is ID. Just let's read it. List of security groups names to associate with names, right? So we'll have to go to AWS security group just to make sure that I'm getting the names and not IDs. I don't know, it might even be ID and these guys have made a typo there.
Wait, can you please go back? If you see the notes, if you're creating instance in VPC.
Where?
Down, just down.
Oh, if you're creating instance in VPC, use VPC security. No, we are not creating instances in VPC security groups IDs. If you're creating instances in a VPC, how does it differ basically?
They are saying use group IDs instead, not name.
Yeah, but every AWS instance is always going to be in a VPC. AWS instance cannot be created outside of VPC if somebody tells me that.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Right? I mean, VPC is the least common denominator. It's the box inside which you create all other resources. VPC is your private cloud network. Okay, so I don't know about it. We can ponder about it. If you are creating instances in a VPC, use VPC security group IDs instance. No, well, this is a different one. This is not what we want. We want this. Okay. So it won't name for sure. So we will go look at the security group. And we will see if it gives me attribute of name. Yeah, then ID of the security group. Maybe ID is the name. I'm thinking so. Let's give it a try because there's no attribute called name. You know what? There might be a name. Hold on. Yeah, there's a name. Let's go ahead and let's see if we can put a name and then it gives me error and then I'll use ID. Okay. So security group 1 and this guy will be security group 2. Correct? Let's go ahead and validate it. And let's go and see what the plan looks like. It should just tell me that security group has to be added. Okay. So let's see plan. Are you guys good with your time? We are 5 minutes over, but so it says what it says to add. And what is it trying to add? You can always look over here. So VPC security group. Security group, everything that they're trying to update is over here, must be replaced. So the instance is going to be replaced basically because we're adding a new security group to it. You can always read it. Please read through it. Just to save time, I will just do a Terraform apply minus auto approve. And as per what it said, it should technically delete and yeah, it's shutting down. You see that? For a security group, I don't know why it had to shut down because while running, it can actually assign new security group. It might just be that the APIs are not available, and that's the reason why they have to clean it up and then recreate it. But technically, while we are running, we can change the security group using this. So I really don't understand why they have to delete and recreate. Or maybe they're just shutting down, applying, and then bringing it up. Not sure. No, they terminated it. Not a good idea. Yeah, they're still destroying it. Give it some time. But are you able to get that feeling that how easy it becomes when you're working with Terraform? No?
Yes, Samir.
Yes, Samir, we
Yes.
can easily create resources
Yeah.
with the Terraform.
And it is so easy, right? I mean, you can just Google around, you can go to the resources, you can find it. There are so many things that you can do. Okay, so this,
Infrastructure as a code, that's what they call it, right?
yep.
What's the difference between Terraform and Ansible? You said you briefly talked about it today, right? It's a configuration management where
Yeah,
you
yeah, we
can
will
configure the
come to it.
controller.
We'll come to it, Romana. Not the right time to ask that question.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason I would not answer some questions is because if I try to answer it, it might just confuse everything that you've learned so far.
Okay.
So
Sure.
we'll come to it. We'll step slowly. Right. My promise is in next 2 months, you guys should be at least able to take up interviews. That's my promise. Whatever documentation I send, whatever research I ask you to do, if you can religiously do that, don't worry about anything around it. When time comes, I will tell you about each and every one that is important. It's trying to destroy something. What is it? Why is it trying to still destroy? I don't know why this is taking so long time to destroy. Come on, it was so long. Okay, came up. Probably go and delete the security groups now. Okay, good. So it created it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to SSH to this box. And technically, we didn't even need public IP here. So that is another thing that you can try to do, put it into a different subnetwork. Right now, we just have public subnetworks. You might have to create a private subnetwork using Terraform. SSH EC2 user at this works. Then get the IP address of the second one. SSH EC2 user at. Okay, so that rule, we'll have to look at whether that rule is there, because I went and deleted it. I was thinking it's the old security group. You saw, right? I went and deleted it. So that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. Oh, you know what? This is a nice place for you to show Terraform plan. Let's do it, because plan does a refresh. So it should find it should find the drift, right? That I deleted something, and then it has to create it. It should tell me that. See, it found out that security group 2 has been modified and the inbound rule is changed. This is the drift that I was talking about, was brought in because of the refresh attribute, Mansa. This is especially for you. Now, if I do a Terraform apply, it should change it. And then I should see that inbound rule over here very, very soon. See that magic? Now if I do what I was doing earlier, and then take the private IP of the instance, Done. We are done for today. Are you excited about Terraform? Nobody's responding. Everybody's gone, looks like. Am I the only one here?
No, sir, we're trying to understand.
Stand Saujanya here today? All right, I'm going to stop the recording and then we can go through question and answer.